Glasses or something. I don't know. Good morning. Welcome to another one of our bookshops events. We're here in Tring, and Andy Griffiths, the great Andy Griffiths, is talking us about the land of lost things. Andy is zooming into us from Australia. Where are you in Australia, Andy?
Melbourne, Australia, uh, down the bottom of the mainland. So, not the place where it's really hot all the time. That's Central Australia and Northern Australia. So,
Okay, so it's a bit cooler where you are, and you're just going into your winter, aren't you? So I mean, we're probably getting our summer right now. I don't know what the rest of the country's like, but we're absolutely steaming, which is very unusual for Britain in March and April.
yeah. No, we've had a long hot summer, and it's been fun. Yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant. So, listen, Andy's going to be talking you through a presentation. I've received some questions from you. Um, by all means, put some more questions into the Q&A box. It's trickier for me to sort of moderate those, but I've got a load of good ones from schools who are ahead of the time. So, well done to them. And without further ado, Andy, let me hand over to you.
Thank you very much, and yeah, thank you all for tuning in. I'm going to say this morning for you. It's actually evening for me, and I'm going to take you on a journey. We're going to go on an adventure, and in fact, there is a test here. I'm going to see how adventurous you are because the main characters in my new series, the Land of Lost Things, is you and me. And so I've got to make sure that you're adventurous enough to keep up with me, that you're brave enough to make the hard decisions you're going to need in order to survive. So this will be fun. And now let me start at the beginning. Some of you may know before I was writing adventure novels, I was writing all about a treehouse. Uh, Now, let me see if I can get this to work. There we go. Uh, this is uh, this opening slide is you and me in the land of lost things as we pass toothbrushes and lost watches and lost socks, the lost sock fish there. There's even a little lost elephant there. Everything you've ever lost is in this land. But let me start at the start here. For many years, I've worked with a very silly illustrator called Terry Denton, and that's me and Terry working together. And so when I'm writing, whether it's with Terry or the illustrator of Lost Things, which is Bill, we're just playing. We're playing with words. We're playing with ideas, and we're playing with pictures. And that happens over many meetings and a long time. Gradually, the pictures and the words influence each other. So ideas come from that process of playing. And sometimes they come from other books. And one of my very favorite writers growing up was an English writer called Enid Blyton, who I'm sure you've heard of. And she wrote a few series. I loved the wishing chair, where you'd sit in a chair and it would grow wings and fly out the window. But I also loved the magic faraway tree. And one day I said to Terry, let's write our own magic faraway tree house, and we'll have a tree house, and it'll be really cool and it'll be really dangerous. It'll have a shark tank with live sharks, and it will have a bowling alley where bowling balls go flying down the lane and fall out of the tree and sometimes hit people on the head. And we'll have a marshmallow machine that'll follow people around and fire marshmallows into their mouth. And I said, Terry, can you draw me this really dangerous treehouse? And meanwhile, I'll think about what sort of tree would we use. And so this is one of the places where my ideas come from, is doing some research. So if you were going to build a multi-level tree house, you'd need a good strong tree. Now, here's a test. I'm going to show you some trees, and I want you to tell me if you think they're a good tree for a tree house or a bad tree. Okay, first tree. How many of you, and Ben can help me out here because he's monitoring
Okay, I will. I
the
will.
chat. Thank you. Um, how many think this is a good tree? It's one of the tallest trees in the world. It's even got its own name, General Sherman, a Californian redwood. How many of you think this would be a good tree for a multi-level tree house?
Cool.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of great tree, good tree coming through.
Tree?
My one thought to that is, there's not enough branches, surely.
That is exactly my thought, Ben. It's a very impressive tree and a very tall tree, but you could only get a few levels there. And it's also a long way to climb up. And it's a long way to fall out if you have a fight with your with he gets very violent and he would push you out and then you'd fall down and then you have to climb all the way back up again so that you can push Terry out of the tree. Because that's fair, isn't it? If someone pushes you out of a tree, you should push them out of the same tree. Is that how you do it in the UK?
Yes.
Good. I thought it might be just an Australian thing. So I think it's too tall, not enough branches. What about this tree? What's the
Well,
verdict on this one?
let's say I suspect there's going to be some cynicism from the audience coming in. Uh,
It's not too tall.
there's lots,
Um,
apparently, lots of laughs in the classroom. Too tubby comes another answer.
Too tubby. That's a
Too
nice way.
tubby. That's
You
from
could you
Lawrence.
could, you could put a doorway in it and just have a one-room ground floor treehouse.
Yeah.
But not really what we're looking for. And the branches are a bit too crazy as well. What about this sort of tree?
Is that
Pretty much.
real?
That's an actual real tree. Yes, it's a real problem in Australia. Trees are not wearing underpants anymore, so I'm having to run around put underpants on trees, and I hope that doesn't come to the UK. But no, you would never build a tree house in a butt tree because it's obviously way too smelly up in the. That's a trick one. No one was supposed to think that was right. Here we have a Moreton Bay fig. Now we
Mm,
must be getting close. We've seen the wrong sorts of trees, but check this out. Are we getting
that's
strong positive?
amazing. That's amazing. Sponsors are coming in gradually, but yeah, no, we can see with lots of branches. This would be a good one. Amazing branches. That's from Andrew Clark and Alison Rogers. This will be a good one. Lauren Wakelin. Yeah, very good. Getting lots of positive reviews. This one.
Good, and leaves to protect you from the sun and the rain, and vines to swing on. So now we have our perfect tree. And so this is what I do before I write a story: is I sort of fill my head with lots of images, and I'll also read other books like Enid Blyton. But I fill my head with ideas and pictures and stories so that when I go to write my story, I've got that much more to talk about. And meanwhile, Terry was working very hard that day, and he drew this beautiful picture of 13 levels in a treehouse. And I was like, that's a beautiful picture. It gives me a real sense of height and what it might be like to be in that tree. But where's the bowling alley that I asked for? And where's the shark tank? And he said, just a minute, I haven't finished. And so I watched him as he gradually added more and more detail to the tree. And I got more and more excited, thinking, I really want to live in this tree. And then he finally finished it. And there we were. We had a 13-story treehouse, which is dangerous, but it's also really cool. So I said, let's write about ourselves living in this tree. and all the things that are happening in the tree that are stopping us from writing the book. So that's how the 13-story treehouse started. And that was the idea. We're trying to write a book, but we can't because there's too much wild stuff happening all around us. And then that's eventually what the book becomes. Then all the kids in Australia and increasingly around the world were saying, can we have another one? So we said, yeah, let's add another 13 stories. So, there's one of the problems in the first book. That's Mermaidia, the horrible sea monster mermaid who tried to eat us. That was a little problem. Then we added another 13 levels. So we had 13 plus 13 equals 26. This is your maths lesson today. It's a 13 times table. And so we had to think of another 13 levels, an anti-gravity chamber, an ice cream parlor with 39 flavors, and also the maze of doom, a maze so terrifying that nobody who's ever gone in would ever come out again. How many of you would go into a maze knowing that you would never come out again? Getting any sense there, Ben, of how many people would do that?
Yeah, nearly all here. They'd all go in. Yeah.
Oh,
That's
that
Andrew.
is so disappointing because people read the signs. It says certain death ahead. And are you crazy? Hazard, enter at own risk. But okay, there's no rules in the treehouse. So you can all go in and spend the rest of your lives wandering around an infinite maze like those poor penguins there. So our treehouse is a mixture of fun and terror and fantasy and nightmare. And they're the sort of books I liked to read as I was growing up. And so that's what I tend to write. And Terry is really good at drawing them. In the 39-story treehouse, we ended up with the scariest roller coaster in the world. In this one, on the very top there, you go through a ring of fire, so you catch on fire, and then you go into a plunge. You plunge into a pool of water, which puts the fire out, and then you go around and feel very ill. And I'm sure if I was to ask how many of you would go on this roller coaster, we'd get, what do you think, Ben? Is it 100%? Maybe. Let's have a look. Then we added another 13 stories to get to the 52-story treehouse, and up and up and up we went. Not quite sure where we finished there. Oh, this is one level, Terry's Ninja Snail Training Academy. So he was training snails to become deadly ninjas, which you might think is a complete waste of time, but they actually became really useful to us at the end of the book. And we did 13 books over the last 13 years with a few joke books and bonus short stories. And then one day I couldn't find Terry, and I think the last time I saw him, he was feeding the sharks in the shark tank. So I haven't seen Terry for some time. And you might notice my finger is a little sore too. And that's not from the shark tank. That's actually from the koalas. You all know about koalas. I don't think you have them in the UK, but we've got quite a lot of them over here, and lots of people come across from the UK and try to cuddle them, but it's a bad idea because some koalas are the killer koala sort. This guy and his little baby, or her little baby, So if you come to Australia, watch out for the killer koalas because they give you a bad nip every now and again. So little public service announcement there. But outside of writing books, I actually have done. I like having adventurous hobbies, and that's me doing some rock climbing. And I've labelled it so that you can see that's me there, and that the rest of it that's not me is the rock, just in case you were confused. So I like that. That's a pretty easy rock for me. This is a slightly harder rock. Um, that's
Wow.
yeah, that was pretty hairy, but I managed to get up there without falling off. Um, then I started climbing really tough rocks. I did fall off that one, but who wouldn't? Um, and I like jumping off tall mountains. How many of you have jumped off a tall mountain?
But I certainly haven't. You're giving me the heebie-jeebies.
Oh no, well, I'm not just jumping off a mountain. You see, I've got a parachute on my
Yeah,
back
yeah,
there.
yeah. I thought
Safety.
Andrew Clark, who's very good at replying to these, is saying zero, which I suspect that will be the defining answer for all the schools watching.
Yeah, well, a lot of people make the mistake of asking their parents first if they can jump off the top of the cliff, but I recommend just jumping off the cliff without asking your parents. But don't tell them I told you that. Uh, there's me doing some surfing. That's a little wave for me. And then I've done a lot of big wave surfing. That's a really big wave. And sometimes I like to do really dangerous types of waves, which are the dragon waves.
Very good.
And it proves that it's me. This is not just some AI picture that I picked up off the internet, because you can see the label says me and the dragon. I've done some dragon fighting. About 400 years ago, I was involved in a lot of dragon fights. That's me fighting a dragon there.
I assume you won.
Absolutely, because you can see I'm standing clear of the flames. And a lot of people, including all of you, have made that mistake. I've got a picture of you fighting a dragon. Oh, that's the rookie error right there, standing in front of the flame. So yeah, you are not as clever as me. I'm sorry to say, but together we're pretty good. Whoops, yeah, that's if you stand in front of a dragon while it's blowing flame, you die. You're learning so much today. Let's take the test and see if each of you, would survive a really wild adventure. Now, I've got some theme music here. Bill, our new illustrator, is also an animator, and he's made a very exciting theme music. So we'll just play that and get ready for adventure. Get ready to make some decisions. It's our flying car. Yeah, we didn't have enough money to finish it, but it was exciting. I think you'll agree. Let's see if we can get to the next thing. Okay, here's the beginning of our adventure, and this is all in the book, but you're going to make some decisions now. We are driving along looking for adventure, and you see this sign which says, "Warning, dangerous cliff ahead." So this provides a decision point. You're driving, you see that there's a dangerous cliff ahead. Would you, A, stop the car? So I'll take a group decision here. How many of you would stop the car? And how many of you would keep driving? And I think, given most of you have gone into the maze of doom, when it said don't go in the maze of doom, I'm going to guess a lot of you would keep driving. Would I be correct?
I've only had answer B here so far, so keep driving.
Right. Is anyone going to stop the car?
Does anybody want to stop the car? I mean, would it help if I said I would stop the car?
Yeah, I'd be totally supportive of that, Ben, because it's a warning a dangerous cliff, and there's a picture of a car going over a cliff. So if you stop the car, let's deal with Ben first, and then I'll see what happens to the rest of you. Ben stops the car with a screech, and you've stopped the car, and look at that, you've saved yourself going over a cliff into shark-infested water. But unfortunately, you are stop the car right in front of a dragon, and you're about to be incinerated. So that was a pretty boring adventure for you, really, just before you died. So the safe option is not always the safe option. It's how many of you would like to go over the cliff? Well, I know 100% are now driving over a cliff. What are you going to do now? Okay, fortunately, our dashboard has 3 buttons. A, you can eject from the car before it actually crashes. B, you can press the self-destruct button and blow up the car before it crashes, so then it won't crash. Or C, press the button that makes the car fly.
We're getting a lot of C's. We're getting a lot of C's. We're getting a few B's.
Few B's. Any
B's.
A's? Anyone going to take the safe option?
I'm going to go A because everyone else is going C.
But Ben, you're already dead.
Oh yeah, of course.
But it's okay. I'm going to give you another life. Let's see what happened when Ben ejects from the car, and there you go. You've successfully ejected, and you're flying up into the sky, and you're actually flying so high that it's pretty amazing, and you suddenly go, hey, I can fly. So you're now flying through the sky. And what I like to do when I'm writing a story is think, what's the worst thing that could happen next? So, Ben, what do you reckon? Oh, and maybe see if anyone else, what's the worst thing that could happen if you were flying in the sky, having a good time, but how could
I'm gonna. I mean, having already been incinerated by a dragon, I'm gonna say a dragon comes and incinerates me again.
Yeah, that could happen, but there's something even hotter and more dangerous than a dragon up in the sky. Does anyone know what it is?
I think, the sun. Well done to Lauren's class. Well done. Yes, there it is.
Very good. Yes, you've got a sun. Don't be fooled by its happy, smiling face, because it is hot and you're going, uh-oh, I don't know how to steer away from the sun. I'm going to burn up in the sun. But then you amazingly work out that you can leap over the top of it. So it's working out well for you, Ben.
Nice.
Until the dragon comes and you get again. You know what happens next, don't you?
There's a theme here. Yeah.
Yeah, you die. Okay, well, we've only lost you twice, Ben. Everyone else is still living. Let's see what happens if you press the self-destruct button.
We did get a few who pressed B, so yes.
Okay, well, we're going to look after you. You press the self-destruct button and the car explodes. Only one little problem. You're inside the car and you explode as well, which means you die. Yeah, I understand why you pressed it, but no, bad choice. Which leaves us with fly. We press the fly button and the car goes flying up, well, down first, and then up, up, up and away. But unfortunately, you pressed it so hard, it goes too fast and it goes out of control, breaks through the space-time continuum into a kind of spiral through into another whole dimension and out of into the new dimension towards a tree. Okay, so now you're flying towards a tree at very high speed. What should you do? It's A, you can crash, or B, you can crash. What are
Oh, the
the
choice. Tough choices. In fact, we've had answers coming in saying A or B. A, B.
A, B? All right, yeah. Either way, you're going to crash.
Well, like
So
Brennan, I think about we thinking crash.
yeah, and bang, there you are. You crashed, and you go flying out of the car, and you land with two thumps on the forest floor. A little bit worse for wear, but you're alive. And then you see this guy. And remember, I always said, what's the worst thing that can happen next? Well, Johnny Knucklehead is our nemesis. He is a guy, he's kind of like a villain. He's sort of a friend at times, but he'll always double cross us and steal any treasure that we might find or do whatever. So we don't really want to see this guy. But today he's kind of friendly. And he says, we say, where are we? And he says, we're in the land of lost things. And he shows us the map, which is a map full of things that are lost. And lost socks, lost handkerchiefs, lost dragons, lost gloves, lost everything. But we still don't know. We realize we're lost in the land of lost things. And then a very bad thing happens. We're lost, and the bull, a lost bull who's lost his temper, comes charging towards us. So you're now being charged by an angry bull. What should you do? Here is your ultimate test. Should you run or should you fight? A is run, B, fight. What would
There's some risky, there's some dangerous people in there watching this event because I'd quite happily run, but no, there's lots of people asking to fight.
yeah, is it just you who would run, or are there other people who would run as
There
well?
was one who said a scram. I love the word scram.
That's a much better word.
Lauren Wakelin, yeah, her class said scram.
Scram. Okay, so let's explore the running away, the scramming option. You start running away, and that's you running. By the way, you'll notice we wear cardboard box adventure helmets on our heads. That's to protect our heads and also to protect our identities so that the you character couldn't be any of us. Well, it can't be me because I'm me, but it could be any of you. And so that's why we're wearing a helmet with a pair of flip-flops on the back, running in a rather strange style, but nevertheless running away. And oh, bad luck. You've made the mistake of running into a dragon. And Ben, you'll notice they've made another mistake here, which is they're continuing to run into the dragon rather than turning around and run the other way, which means you die. The rest of you are going to fight the bull. Great choice. That's what a true adventurer would do, because that's what we're there for. We're there for adventure. But then Johnny, you remember I said sometimes he's our friend. He says, it's okay, leave it to me. I'll fight the bull because I've got something special. So here's another little bit of animation that shows what happens when Johnny Knucklehead. So Johnny Knucklehead is great because he uses his knuckle head. I've actually got he's right here. Can you see Johnny there?
Very good.
There he is. That's what Johnny Knucklehead looks like. But he saved us. Whoops. And happy days, you live. Well done. You've passed the test. And we've had just the beginning of the adventure, and you're still alive after a number of death-defying moments. And so this section of the adventure ends very happily, except for so unfortunately we lost one tortoise, but we will live to go on and have our adventure in the land of lost things.
Nice.
So that's the beginning and what the new book is all about. And I'm very happy to answer questions now.
Yeah. So let me turn my screen back on.
I'll escape the presentation. Whoops.
Show self view.
Stop share. Okay, here we are.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. Let's tell you. I'm going to ask a couple of questions first, mainly in relation to your work with Terry and how where that originates. Did you know Terry before this, or have because I know you're both based in Australia?
Yeah. Do you want the true story or the made up story? Because the made up story is much more entertaining.
Let's go with made up then.
Oh, well, funny you ask. That's where I grew up with really mean parents, and they wouldn't let me, like when we had food, we had to use a knife and a fork. Can you imagine growing up under those conditions? They'd make me wear a coat whenever it was cold. And worst of all, they made me go to school 5 days a week. I don't know if you or anyone out there can imagine that. 5 days a week. And so I had to run away from home. I had no choice. And I lived in tree houses. I made tree houses. I stole food from restaurant tables. I hid under the table and just reached up and grabbed all the food whenever I was hungry. But I did get into trouble, and I got chased by a chef with an angry knife, an angry chef with a knife. And he chased me, and he was going to get me for stealing food, but I jumped into a pedal boat and pedaled out into the middle of a lake, so he couldn't get me. But then I got sucked out to sea, and I was lost at sea for many, many weeks until I saw an island in the distance. And then I realized that's no island. It's a little boy wearing a pair of emergency inflatable underpants just floating in the ocean. And I pulled him into the boat, and that was Terry. So that's how we met. Soon after, we were kidnapped by Captain Woodenhead, which is where we met Jill, the other main character in the Treehouse. But that's why I much prefer that story to the real story, which is a publisher, when I first sent them a book, said, "Oh, this is very funny. We know a really funny illustrator. His name's Terry. We think you two would play well together." And they were absolutely right. So 25 years later, we've been playing all that time.
Amazing. Right, children's questions. Let's start with Redland Primary, Abigail Moore's class, Falcons. And I'm going to go with the first question I received, actually, which is lovely. So Sophie asked, why did you come up with the idea of the Land of Lost Things? And does it relate to you losing your socks? Have you got lots of single socks in your drawer?
Absolutely. I spend most of my time looking for things. You can see I'm in a room here just full of lost things, little toys and dinosaurs and all sorts of things that I've collected over the years because I love interesting objects. They really help your imagination. Whatever you find interesting in the world is worth collecting and noticing, whatever that is for you, because that really helps your imagination. But the Land of Lost Things, well, the book came because so many readers were writing to me and saying, can you put me in the book? Can you put me and my friend in the book? And I was like, well, I can't put everyone in the book. That would be really impossible. But I would love to have you, the reader, as my companion. So that's where the you and me came from. And the Land of Lost Things just seemed right. Oh, it was going to be a lost sock. Originally, it was going to be you and me and the lost sock. And we had a giant, my sock turns into a giant snake monster and it's terrifying us. And that was pretty cool, but that was a real early idea. And then eventually I think Bill drew the picture of the lost things where we'd gone to look for the lost sock. And I just saw that picture of us in the boat surrounded by toothbrushes and socks and flying watches. And I just went, oh, that's really what the book's about, a land where all the lost things go. So ideas start and then develop over a year in this case.
Lovely. I've had one question, literally the last one just went into the chat box from Alison. Why is there a huge eyeball on your shelf?
That's a souvenir from the 130 story treehouse where me and Terry and Jill and our treehouse was abducted by a giant flying eyeball from outer space. And it took us and the tree into space, back to the planet Eyeballia, where it forced us to fight an intergalactic death battle with 12 other different alien species for those horrible eyeballs benefits. So
nice.
That's a whole other adventure. And I kept the eyeballs because souvenir.
Lovely. In fact, a great question just came in from Ria down in she's at a school in Watford. George and Molly would like to ask, why are there so many dragons, and are there any nice ones?
Are there nice dragons? Look, there might be, but not in my stories. Dragons for me are all about fire and terror. I think when I was making the presentation, there was a dragon introduced. And then one of the ways I write is to just keep doing the same thing over and over and over because that amuses me. So I guess one of the things I do as a writer is to lead the reader to think one thing is going to happen and then surprise them with something else. And I could give you an example, like supposing, look, more dragons. Well, it's a Godzilla, actually. Close enough. If a Godzilla met a little baby, what would you expect is the likely outcome of this meeting?
Well, my sensible answer would be very different from yours. I can guarantee.
Give me a sensible answer. That's what I started.
I suspect Godzilla would gobble it up in one mouthful.
Yeah, and no one would want to read a story like that, would they? Where poor baby gets shoved into the mouth of a dinosaur and shaken violently, and oh, what a tragic, sad story. There's a much better story hiding there, and it's the surprising one, which is, sorry, I just lost the tail. Dragon's tail fell off. No, the dragon and the baby meet. We expect the Godzilla to eat the baby. What's the opposite to that?
the baby wins somehow. I don't.
Well, the baby eats the Godzilla. Um, Obviously, then we have to figure that out. Oh, how would it kill the Godzilla? It could fly through the air and headbutt it if it's really strong. It could take its nappy off, its diaper off, and knock the dinosaur out with smell, and then the baby can eat the dinosaur. So that's how the first things I explore is what's the opposite to what the reader expects. And then I think what else doesn't the reader expect is that when they meet each other, they could be the Godzilla sees the baby and thinks the poor baby is lost. I'd better look after it. So the Godzilla adopts the baby, takes it home, raises it like a little dinosaur child. And that's an interesting way the story could go. What's the opposite to the dinosaur adopting the baby?
The baby adopting the dinosaur.
Perfect. So then we get this scene where the baby takes the dinosaur home to its parents. Do you think its parents would be very happy if the baby dragged a Godzilla into the house?
Don't know. That probably not.
Probably not. See, I always go, what's the obvious answer? Probably not. But what's the unusual answer? The parents go, oh, oh, how lovely. How lovely. A Godzilla. We can put it in the backyard with the T-Rex that you brought home last week. Now we have a sort of story where a baby plays with dinosaurs. And now let's just finish on this one with a nice story. How many, who'd like to see a romance where they see each other, they lock eyes, and they fall madly and deeply and truly in love? How many of you would like to see that? Not you, Ben.
That's wrong on so many different levels. But yes, carry on.
Oh, it's beautiful. They fly through the air, they embrace, they kiss, they get married and have children. Oh no, it suddenly went terribly wrong. But
Yeah.
not how does that happen? But what would if a baby and a Godzilla had a child, what would it look like? The beauty of toys is we can take this head off and this head on, and we now have a whole new character, which is really cool. Baby Godzilla. Or we have its little brother, this nasty little
Godzilla
fellow.
baby.
Yeah, Godzilla baby who would I think it's got a bad temper. It wouldn't get along well at school, I don't think.
Yeah.
So that's
I've had questions. I've had questions. Where do all your ideas come from? I don't know if I need to ask that really, frankly. It comes from a bonkers part of your brain, which is just
no,
extraordinary.
it's actually a question asking. I'm just going, what would you expect to happen? What's the opposite to that?
Yeah.
What else might happen? So you're just exploring options, and
Yeah,
that's where
yeah,
the ideas. I'm playing with ideas. Most of them are stupid and useless, but some of them are really useful. Yeah.
There are some really nice questions coming on the chat. I should really also be focusing on the. So, St James Chorley, that's Andrew Clark's class, who've been so proactive on the chat function. Matthew, who I believe has ordered a book. I saw Matthew order a book. Are there going to be any more Treehouse storybooks? And that question has been released by loads of people. So they're going to. Let me add another question to that. If you'd known the success of it, would you have changed the number of stories on each book, or are you quite happy with the 13?
We were really happy with it because it gives me a little, gives me a parameter, sort of a rule for each book. So I know each book I have to come up with 13 new levels.
Yeah.
And a few of those are going to drive the story. And then the next book I have to come up with 13 new levels and write a different type of story. And I wanted each book to be different. I didn't want us repeating ideas or the audience to sort of go, oh, yeah, I know what's going to happen. That happened in 2 books ago. So I was amazed that we got to 13 books with 169 levels. It took 13 years, and everything was 13. So once we hit the 13th book, it was like, that's a really good place to stop before things get predictable.
So you're not having a 182 story.
Sadly not, but any of you are welcome to write your own version of the 182 story Treehouse with and feature your own friends and your dog or your cat or the angry shop owner down the street. You can have fun writing your own stories, and I fully support that.
Nice.
And also your own adventure stories. You can just draw a picture on a page. Doesn't even take much writing. Where would you like to go for an adventure? And draw yourself having that adventure.
Nice, nice. Rachel Taylor, I don't know what school or class, came up with a nice question, which I might probably with you in mind, I might turn it on his head as well. But her question is, "What's the strangest thing you've lost?" But I think we should say, "What's the strangest thing you've found?" So we'll double that question up. Yeah, I mean, you've got a whole shelf full of them back there behind you.
Yeah, I do have one thing, if I can find here. Strangest thing I've lost. I don't think I've lost any. Oh, I did lose a jar full of my toenails and fingernails that I'd cut over many years because I like putting things in jars and writing little labels and instructions for how to use them. So I had a jar of toenails and fingernails, which was when you're scared, you have to, instead of chewing your own fingernails, you could take the lid off and chew the fingernails out of the jar. So I lost them. And
Nice.
some lucky person in Australia found them. Here's the strangest thing. It was in just a second-hand shop, and I found this sort of, I don't even know what it is. It sort of looks a bit like a monkey, but it doesn't have any arms or legs. And I said to Jill, who is in the Treehouse books, but she's also my wife and the editor of all the books. I said, "Jill, look at this. How ugly is this? We've got to take this home." And she said, "No, it's horrible. Leave it there." And I said, "No way. This is cool." And when I got it home, I realized you can put your finger in it and it makes noises. Can you hear some of those?
Yep.
So it's it's really good for annoying people. So that's one of my other hobbies when I'm not writing, is finding things to annoy Jill with, and she'll shout at me within 30 seconds of doing that right in her face. So I don't know.
There's a book in that room alone. I mean, I can't imagine what it's like. If you've forgotten something, left it up here, all the lights are turned off, and you come up here, and all the animals, all those faces just looking at you as you come in. That's a bit too scary. Anyway, children's event. Zachary from Dauncey, which I believe is, which school is that? From Redland, actually. He's reading the Treehouse series with his dad every night at the moment. Wants to ask, which book of the series is your favourite? He also can't believe Andy from the Treehouse is real. Are you real?
Well, yeah, I think I'm real, and Andy is a part of me. Oh, hang on, I've got to
I
turn
love
this
this.
off. Now he's making a noise like flies. Yeah, Andy, Terry, and Jill are based on us. And Andy in the books is sort of always trying to get the book finished, going, "Terry, stop messing around. You're drawing a picture of your finger, and we've got a deadline, and we need this book." So I'm a bit like that, a little bit bossy. Terry is quite easily off track all the time, drawing silly things that have nothing to do with the story. Um, and Jill is the editor of the books, which means she helps us sort all the nonsense out, make sure the story is flowing in a logical way. Um, so she helps solve our problems, which is why she solves all our problems in the books with animals. When Terry feeds his underpants to the sharks, Jill comes over and performs open shark surgery. So they're sort of true and not true at the same time. And I find that a really cool way to write.
I think that so Zachary's original question was which book of the series is your favorite, and I think that's a really hard question to ask. What I will add a little added question to that is which is your favorite story, the story, which is your favorite level on all the 169 levels that you've produced.
Well, apart from Andyland, which is where all my Andy clones live, just a clone with hundreds and hundreds of versions of me. Um, it's the exploding eyeball level where you go in and your eyeballs explode, and that was a suggestion by a whole bunch of readers one day, and I said, an idiotic level! Like, who'd want to go into a level where their eyeballs explode? And they all were going, me, because it's a cool idea. And that's what Treehouse is about. It's not necessarily what you'd want to happen in real life, but what a book offers you is the ability to experience and think about things that um, are ridiculous. So yeah, I like that level. It's a reader suggested level. And my favorite book is probably 130, where I've already talked about going up into space, being abducted by giant flying eyeballs, because I liked science fiction comics as I was growing up, along with all my books. So
Yeah.
yeah.
This is quite a sensible one from Ben at Loosely Fields, Lisa Taylor's Clask. How long does it take to write one of your books? Obviously, you're working with either Terry or Bill, and you're working collaboratively at the same time together in a room, and that must take quite a while.
It does. Sometimes we're in the room together. Sometimes we're doing this over Zoom. Um, Working with Bill, he lives in a different part of the country, so a lot of our meetings are by Zoom. But it's the same thing. We're just suggesting things, playing, laughing, going too far, bringing it back. Um, I would say it takes a year to write each book, because
Yeah.
you're doing all this make believe stuff and then rewriting it so it gets better and better and better till
Yeah.
till you have to
And the
stop.
just a question that springs to my mind is you've obviously spent so long working with Terry. How did you find the kind of having to work with someone new, someone different?
It was very natural because over all that time, me and Jill worked out how to work with an illustrator uh, in a really organic way so that no one is the boss. Um, the illustrator will give you a picture and that will spark a story idea, and then you ask for more pictures. And the pictures are beautiful because they make me believe that this nonsense is really true. And that's what you want when you're reading a book is, it's kind of not true, but at the same time, it feels absolutely real. And so I've got to believe it as well. And the illustrator is a really important part in helping me do that.
Brilliant, brilliant. Listen, we're going to run to 55 minutes, so we're just coming to an end. Let me just say, so Andy's coming to visit. There's a question from Maya, which is where would you like to visit most in the world? I'm going to answer that on your behalf. Tring, of course.
Tring
You're
and
coming to
Ben's
you're coming
Bookshop.
at Ben's Bookshop. Yeah, you're coming here in 3 weeks, so you're going to be signing all the orders that have been made. Now, children, you can still order one, so do get your parents to click the link that the schools are all sending you. and so you can order one, and Andy will be signing them on one of the pages. I don't know which one, maybe that one. And I'm also going to get Andy to sign a whole back catalogue of the Treehouse books as well, which will be amazing. So thank you, Andy, for your time. You've been an absolute legend.
My pleasure. It's been great to meet you and all our Zoom audience out there. And get set, we're going on another adventure later in the year. We're going underground to find the terrifying peanut butter beast. So,
Wow. So is that a standalone book that's not in this series?
oh yeah, it'll be you and me and the peanut butter beast. So this is
Nice.
going to become a new series of adventures that we'll all have together.
Fantastic. Well, let's do this again in the autumn, shall we? So that would be absolutely wonderful. Schools, thank you all for joining. Thank you for all the questions. Please do circulate the link. I'll obviously send it over to you again this afternoon. And but without further ado, thank you to everyone, and thank you, Andy, for joining us. And we'll see you in 3 weeks.
See you all later. Thanks, Ben.
Bye bye.
Thank you.